Your art doesn't end with creation. It extends to how you embrace critique. This might seem obvious, but it's important to set the stage. Art is deeply personal. It's like pouring your thoughts and emotions into something tangible. And once you finish, it's easy to think, well, that's it. But the journey doesn't stop there. The next big step is handling all the feedback that's going to come your way. Putting your work out there means you're opening yourself up to everyone's opinion. And yeah, that can be pretty daunting. Sometimes criticism feels super personal. But here's the thing. Getting criticized isn't the end of your creative journey. It's actually part of it. Just like you get better at your craft by practicing, learning how to handle feedback gracefully is a skill you've got to develop. If you don't know how to handle feedback, things get messy real fast. Just take a look at Amy's Baking Company on Kitchen's Nightmare. It's a wild example of how not to deal with criticism. Here's how their actions created a full-blown PR disaster. 1. Amy and her husband Sammy flipped out whenever they faced any criticism. Amy, especially, would scream at customers who complained about the food. Those emotional outbursts just made them look unprofessional and escalated the whole situation. 2. Instead of taking any feedback seriously, they constantly blamed others, whether it was the customers, critics, or even Gordon Ramsay. They accused people of lying or being haters, and that refusal to own up to their own mistakes kept them from fixing anything. When something is always someone else's fault, I rank that as a sign of delusion, but that's a comment for another time. Anyway, Ramsay gave them a golden opportunity for improvement, offering them constructive criticism that could have saved their business. But they rejected all of it and stuck to their ways. Instead of learning from one of the top chefs in the world, they kept spiraling down the same path. What made Amy's Baking Company truly infamous wasn't just the episode though. It was the meltdown afterwards. They went on social media, attacking critics, and doubled down. The result? They became a laughingstock, and the public turned against them. Oh, and we can't ignore the fact that throughout the episode, they completely ignored the opinions of staff, customers, and Ramsay. They basically shut themselves off from anyone who didn't agree with them. They created a self-destructive echo chamber. Here's the thing that frustrates me most. This isn't a one-off situation. This kind of meltdown happens a lot. I don't even need to say names, and I'm sure you can think of some this very second. It's why I've made a point to learn what not to do when facing criticism. Handling feedback is an art in itself that one has to master for their own good as a creator. Now, having said that, you've got to recognize that not all feedback is good. Everyone's got an opinion, but just because someone offers feedback doesn't mean they're a good critic. So, today, we're going to dive into the not so helpful kind of criticism, destructive criticism. By the time we're done, you'll know how to spot it and deal with it. Plus, maybe this will help you avoid dishing it out yourself. Think of this as your what not to do guide. If you find this useful, hit the like button. You know the drill. Now, let's get into what destructive criticism actually is. Destructive criticism is basically feedback that's meant to hurt, not help. Unlike the good kind that gives you tips to improve, this stuff usually comes from a negative place, like jealousy or just wanting to bring you down. It's all about tearing you apart without offering any real advice you can use. But hey, not all destructive criticism comes from a bad place. Sometimes people just don't know how to give good feedback. They're not trying to be mean, they're just kinda clueless. The funny thing is, their lousy critique says more about them than about your work. You'll notice they either don't really get it, can't express themselves well, or both. Now, there are cases where you could just be delusional and the issue lies with you, but we can discuss that another time. Right now, let's focus on how to spot this downer feedback. I've got 5 signs that'll help you figure out if the criticism you're getting, or maybe even given, is totally groan worthy. 1. Generalization. The critique is super vague, throwing out blanket statements like, "This sucks," or "You have zero talent," without any real details. 2. Rudeness. The tone is just plain disrespectful, maybe even full of personal digs or snarky comments. 3. Overblown. They blow things way out of proportion, focusing on stuff that doesn't matter or making extreme judgments without any nuance. 4. Assumption of authority. They act like they're the be-all and end-all of opinions, forgetting that their view is just one among many. 5. Non-specific. There's no solid examples or advice, leaving you clueless about what to fix or even how. Here's a neat way to remember these. Take the first letter of each sign: generalization, rudeness, overblown, assumption of authority, and non-specific, and you get GROAN. Pretty fitting, right? It's a little anagram I came up with to help me remember when in the moment. So yeah, when you run into criticism that's vague, rude, over the top, acting like they're the boss, and lacking specifics, it's totally GROAN worthy. Just like the sound, you might want to take a deep breath, maybe even groan, and then let it go. Now, here's what you definitely don't want to do when facing this kind of feedback. 1. Take it personally. Don't let it get under your skin. Remember, GROAN-worthy feedback says more about them than about you. 2. React emotionally. Try not to fire back with anger or frustration. That just adds fuel to the fire. 3. Engage in debate. Don't bother arguing. It's usually not worth your time. 4. Seek validation from the critic. Don't try to win them over. If their feedback is GROAN-worthy, their approval isn't something you need. 5. Dwell on it. Avoid obsessing over it. Letting it consume you just drains your energy. 6. Ignore all feedback. Don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. Just because some criticism is junk doesn't mean all of it is. 7. Change your work to please the critic. Don't tweak your art just to satisfy someone who's not offering helpful advice. Stick to your vision. 8. Vent publicly. Resist the urge to rant about them online or to others. It can backfire and hurt your own reputation. 9. Isolate yourself. Don't let negative feedback push you into hiding. Stay connected with people who support you. And 10. Let it stop you. Whatever you do, don't let it make you quit. Keep doing your thing. Get that this is easier said than done, but still, it really is that simple. There are a lot of times where simple truly is best. Now, having covered all that, I will say that I don't view this as an absolute. Sometimes you do need to respond or deal with negative critics. That's why I put together a guide that not only shows how to respond, but also gives you 4 key things to think about before deciding whether to even bother. You can snag this guide and more cool stuff by becoming a channel member. For just $4.99 a month, you can access all this deep dive content and even get direct help from me on your writing hurdles. Not only does joining support the channel, but it also hooks you up with tools to handle even the toughest feedback like a pro. And if you're not there yet or can't, no big deal. Feel free to check out my other videos where we break down writing techniques. Whether you're a member or not, I'm here to help guide you on your creative journey.